Hola clase, hoy vamos a revisar los verbos irregulares del presente. So today we're going to review the present tense, but this time we're going to be looking at irregular verbs. So in the last Edpuzzle video, we would have looked at present tense verbs that are regular, all right? So it's going to be really important that you have your notebook out and that you can take notes, all right? So you're going to want to write these verbs down and you're going to want to write their conjugations down so that you can start to memorize them. So here are 3 verbs that we have already learned each individually, but I want you to see them here side by side, and I also want you to take time to write them down. You can pause the video if you need to. These 3 verbs are considered total irregular verbs. So verbos irregulares totales. We've got ser, which means to be, and also estar, which means to be. We use those both a ton, right? We know when to use ser and when to use estar. It's really important that we can conjugate both of these verbs, really quickly. So ser, we have soy, eres, es, somos, son. I know you've heard that a lot. It's important that you keep hearing it and keep practicing it so that you don't forget it. Estar, estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. And then the verb ir, which means to go. Voy, vas, va, vamos, van. So please write those down. You should also write down what they mean. And just by copying them, it will help you memorize them and work them into your memory. The best way to memorize the irregular verbs in Spanish is to kind of group them together. So any of the irregular verbs that are similar or they are irregular in similar ways, it's nice to group them together. So there's a group of irregular verbs that we call go verbs. You could say that's like a category. And here are 3 go verbs that are really popular in Spanish. We have salir, which means to leave or to exit, poner, which means to put or to place, and hacer, which means to do or to make, all right? And you can see why these verbs get the nickname go verbs because they are all irregular in the yo form, and that irregularity shows up as an ending that sounds like go. So salgo, pongo, and hago. If you look at each of these verbs, the rest of the conjugations are normal. So salir, we have salgo, sales, sale, salimos, and salen. And the reason why that top part is irregular is usually we would take the S-A-L, we would get rid of the I-R, and we would just add an O, right? It would be salo, but instead we add that G in there and we get saligo. So that's what makes salir irregular in the first person, in the yo form. Poner, we have pongo, pones, pone, ponemos, and ponen. Again, you would usually just drop the ER and add an O, but we don't do that. We add the G in there, and that's what makes it regular. But in all the other forms, we just drop the ER and add the regular endings, E, ES, E, EMOS, and EN. For hacer, we have hago, haces, hace, hacemos, and hacen. So again, instead of doing what you would think and just adding an O to the end, you're actually changing that C to a G and adding the O, which is what makes it irregular. So these are called go verbs. They're first person irregulars. That means that they're irregular in the first person, yo form. In Spanish, you would call that irregulares de primera persona. And here we have 3 more go verbs, which brings your total to 6 go verbs that you need to be familiar with this year. We have valer, which means to value. Its conjugations are valgo, vales, vale, valemos, and valen. Traer, which means to bring. Traigo, traes, trae, traemos, and traen. And caer, which means to fall. Caigo, calles, calle, caemos, and caen. And you'll notice that the irregularity only shows up in the yo form. We end up with the go ending on each of those verbs instead of just an o ending. So it's only an irregularity that happens in the first person. In all of the other forms, we've got those regular endings. Okay, you could do that all the way across there and see that all the endings are regular, except for just the yo form, the primera persona. Now, here's some other irregulars that don't fit into the go verb category because they don't end in go, but they do fit into the first person category because they are irregular only in that yo form. And in all of the other forms, they're regular. So these are irregulares de primera persona or first person irregular verbs. So saber, which is to know, as in to know facts and information. We have se, sabes, sabe, sabemos, and saben. Okay, so you use that a lot. Like if you want to say, I know, it's yo sé, right? But then if you're saying somebody else knows it, you might say tú sabes or ella sabe. For conocer, we have conozco, conoces, conoce, conocemos, and conocen. And there in that top part, you can see it's irregular because we get a ZCO ending in there. Conozco. This conocer means to know, but it means to know people, to know or like to meet people. Then we have ver, which is to see. We have veo, ves, ve, vemos, and ven. So it's irregular in the yo form because we don't drop the ER. We only drop the R and add an O. And then we have dar, which means to give. Doy, das, da, damos, dan. And you can see that it's irregular. Usually we would drop the AR and add the O, but that would be weird just to say do. So we add the Y, doy. So you'll want to write these down, write what they mean, and practice those. I have 5 ejemplos for you, okay, 5 ejemplos. As I do these, you can do them as well, or you can pause the video and do them first and then see how you do. So for that first one, yo salir a las 8:30. So I leave at 8:30. It is irregular, right, in the yo form. And so we end up with yo salgo a las 8:30. The next one, yo hacer la tarea en la biblioteca. This one's irregular in the yo form, right? It's a go verb, so we end up with yo hago la tarea en la biblioteca. Yo saber un profesor inteligente. So I know an intelligent professor, and this one's irregular in the first person, so it's yo sé. Yo ser alto y delgado. I am tall and skinny. This one is a total irregular verb, right? But it is, that makes it irregular in the yo form too. Yo soy. Then I see a rabbit in the park. This is a first person irregular. Yo veo un conejo en el parque. Okay. All right. So hopefully you were able to do those just fine. I'll show you the last slide that has the answer. So I know I already showed you the answers. That just has it all cleaned up there. We will practice this in class. So like I said, make sure you have all of those verbs written down. If you don't know them very well, you might copy them a second time just for extra practice. And I will see you in class. Adios. Nos vemos.